So, how do you review and approve website content for a medical device company? Usually, companies aren't even aware that the regulatory affairs component of your company or the whoever has that job in your company needs to be involved in the website. A lot of people look at the regulatory group as the anti-sales group. Well, don't show it to regulatory; they won't let us say that. Well, just this morning or just last night, I had a client contact me and say, "Oh, we got this letter from the FDA. Somebody has a complaint about the content we have on our website." Sometimes you get a letter that says, "It's come to our attention that you have the following things on your website that you're not allowed to have because you're not 510K cleared for that." So you have to have some regulatory review of the content on your website. And if you're not sure, I've actually been with an FDA inspector and they've actually identified, oh, your document control procedure, it doesn't have anything in here about reviewing and approving website content. So it is an expectation of the FDA that you will review and approve website content for making sure it's not making claims that you're not allowed to make. And you need to make sure that that's part of your document control process or it's a separate process all by itself. Now, does that mean as a regulatory person that I have to now learn how to operate websites and review content and publish pages? No, you don't. It'd be nice if you knew that stuff, but no, you don't need to do that. There's a big difference between the content on the website that's making claims and the actual coding of the website. And the two are separate. So it's okay for somebody in marketing to hand you a piece of paper and say, "This is what I want to put on the website. What do you think? Can you give me some feedback? What are we allowed to say? What aren't we allowed to say? And why? Show me in the regulations where it says that." So the bottom line is you can't say things that you don't have clearance for already to market. So if you couldn't say it in your IFU, you can't say it on your website. And you really can't hint at it or have hidden meaning or imply something that isn't allowed on your IFUs either. Your instructions for use, what they're cleared for, that's what your product's approved for. That's what you're allowed to say on your website, not something else. So I'll give you an example. One of my clients, and this is going back at least 12 years now, because I think it was 2010. I'm visiting the company and they get a letter from the FDA. They already had 510 clearance. The letter from the FDA was, "It's come to our attention. You have this content on your website. Specifically, there's a video on there of what appears to be a teenager talking about how much they love this product. But your product isn't cleared for use in children. It's not a pediatric product. It's an adult only product." Whoops. So this is a way that the FDA looks at if you're putting a video where somebody's giving a testimonial about how great the product was and it was done as part of a clinical study, you can't talk about that. It's protected patient data. And if it wasn't a clinical study and they just love your product and want to talk about it and sent you the video, you still can't use it because your product wasn't approved at it. It was off-label use. So you need to make sure that any kind of or implied marketing that you're doing by videos on your website or social media site, make sure that you're not making claims indirectly by showing a video of a user that isn't cleared for use for this product. So all these brand new IVD tests that we have out there, and we want them for home use because we can't go out in public because we have COVID or we're under quarantine. Well, sorry, if it's not for home use, then you can't promote it from home use either. It is a pandemic and all, but still you can't promote it on your website that way until you get OTC approval for the product. If you don't have a prescription, you can't promote a prescription only product for OTC use. You can't sell it at Walmart in the right next to the vitamins. That you can't do that. You have to get a physician is prescribing this. It's going to be supervised by a doctor. Part of that is the doctor determines you need this product. The doctor says you need this test. The doctor tells you how to do the test, gives you instructions, and you send the results to the doctor if it's an IVD test, and they interpret it. We call that self-selection. One of the things that the FDA requires is when you do these OTC tests, how is your marketing and labeling designed to make sure the patient can self-select properly? Ooh, that test is not for me. Oh, yes, that test is for me. So there might be certain cases where no, you shouldn't be taking that test. Why? Because you're taking some other drug that might interfere with it, or you're not the intended patient population for this test, or you have already had something else that will result in erroneous results of that test, some other related disease that would give us a false positive or a false negative. So those are the kinds of things that the FDA looks for when they're reviewing your submissions. But you got to make sure somebody in regulatory is reviewing the content to make sure you don't have that information in there accidentally. Um, One of the movies that comes to mind is My Big Fat Greek Wedding, where the father says, use Windex on that and that'll solve it. So everything can be solved by using Windex. Well, you can't make those claims. Windex can't claim it's going to solve all these health problems, even if your uncle or your father says it can. The company selling Windex can't. So you have to have somebody saying no. Yes, in that respect, the regulatory people or the anti-sales group, we could have sold all that Windex, but nope, we can't now because regulatory says we can't. Well, they're also trying to protect your company against recalls. They're trying to protect your company against lawsuits. They're trying to protect your company against having to relabel all the product in your inventory and undo all the marketing work that you just did. So before you go spending money on videos and a video crew to a videographer to create this great video that's going to promote this Windex to solve all your health problems, first get regulatory to look at the script and make sure that they agree that, yes, these are things we can say. So examples of the things that the FDA might look at, and these are various extracts from letters that I've seen over the years. So it's come to our attention. You have on this page of your website the following signs and conditions and common conditions and diseases. Could you please explain how these are linked to the device? How so if it's an IVD device, how does the output of your IVD test relate to all these diseases and conditions? Because by you putting those diseases and conditions on your website and you sell this IVD product, you're implying that these IVD tests tell you something about those diseases and they may not be indicated for it. Next, explain whether or how the data collected from your device would be used in it. So they're being even more specific. Please tell us how your device is going to diagnose or help in the management of those diseases that you listed. So all these big long list of diseases, they're great for search engine optimization because, they were searching for some disease like cardiovascular disease or diabetes or whatever it was. But if you're not indicated for that, you shouldn't be putting those diseases on your website. Be very careful about listing specific diseases that aren't in your indications. That's the number one way to trigger the FDA to send you that letter. It's come to our attention. Or a complaint from your competitor. Another example, please explain or please provide examples of the device's output. So if it's a test, like an IVD test, and I'm bringing up IVDs a lot here because there's so much at-home push now for IVD products that aren't cleared for over-the-counter IVD. So people are using them in an unintended use environment for an unintended patient population and unintended users. These aren't good. Like, it's not for children, it's not for home use, it's not over-the-counter, and yet they're selling like hotcakes at the local pharmacy. So you need to make sure that you explain to the FDA in your response to their letter. Give us examples of your output of your device for a normal test result and an abnormal test result. Everything has software now. We have the Internet of Everything now. So now not only am I taking this IVD test, but it's going to send the result to my doctor. Well, was that in your original clearance? Are the algorithms that you have in your device, were they previously generated machine algorithms or are they real-time learning algorithms? The two are quite different. One, you've validated, you have a training database, and you have a validation database, and you presented all the information to the FDA. And if you make a change to the algorithm, the FDA wants a new 510K. Real-time algorithms, the FDA doesn't clear. That's what the industry would like to do. That's where we think technology is going, but the FDA is not ready for that. Another example, who are the results provided to? So people say, well, it'll go to your doctor, but does it go to you first? So you can say, oh, I don't need to go see my doctor. I don't need to send this to my doctor. Or does it automatically go to the doctor because the doctor prescribed it and you won't see the results because you're not qualified to read ECG data? And the doctor is going to read it and he's going to make notations and he's going to prescribe medicine for you. So how is that delivered? Is it delivered through an MDDS that's validated and is registered with the FDA as a class 1, or you just hold it next to your phone and it automatically beams up to space? How are the results reviewed by somebody? Is it being reviewed by a trained professional, or is it being reviewed by a layperson? You need to actually test that in summative testing that you submit to the FDA in a usability study showing that the layperson can read that if it's an OTC test. Not required for the prescription use only. Even though it might be just temperature, like I know what my temperature is, but if you didn't get clearance for OTC and you didn't show them how to read that data, then you can't make those claims. Another example would be, how is personal data protected? So if you had this in a nursing home and you're collecting data, is the information going to the nursing home professional and it's protected so it won't get to other people living in the nursing home or outside the nursing home, especially if it's clinical data? So we have GDPR compliance in Europe, we have HIPAA compliance in the US, and we have the Canadian privacy laws. All 3 countries that we work with all the time all have privacy laws that you have to be aware of and make sure that just because it meets the requirements for one country, like US, doesn't mean it meets the requirements for the other 2 countries. So you need to make sure that how you're sharing that data and who you're sharing it with is allowed legally in that country. And then what is the use environment? So there's a very big difference between hospital use, nursing home use, and home use. Actually, in your home, they're different use environments. They're definitely going to be probably different users in those different use environments as well. So you want to make sure that that is allowed and you're not showing videos of somebody using this at home for a hospital use only product. Videos are getting us in a lot of trouble because they make great marketing material and they're great for people that are lazy and don't like to read, but they're not so great for marketing people when they make claims indirectly. So you didn't say that it's for home use, but and you didn't say it was for mobile use, but you have somebody using it in their car and they're plugging it into their dash cigarette lighter. But it's not cleared for that. Just because they were able to hook it up that way doesn't mean that's how you tested it for electrical safety. And so there's different standards for that particular type of use environment, and you didn't do the testing for that. So you can't promote it for use in the car with your cigarette lighter. So we need to make sure that when you come up with these marketing programs, you look at the video content or the script for what's going to be in the video. You look at the use environment, look at the users, look at the indications, make sure any diseases that are specifically mentioned are included in the indication for use for your product. If you don't have those things, then you're likely to get that letter that says it's come to our attention or we've received a complaint regarding your device. And then you have to address those, and you're probably going to have to pull stuff off your website. And hopefully you'll be in a situation where the FDA feels, based on the other information you provided, the way it has been used or the people it's been distributed to, it won't cause harm. If they believe it will cause harm, then they're going to make you recall the product. So there's a big difference between cease and desist versus recall the product. And you don't want to get to either one. You want to give them information and discuss it with them on a phone call that they schedule. And then if it's agreed that's not appropriate marketing, you pull that off the website, maybe even before the meeting. So, and then they want to see before and after screens of the website. So if you don't review this with regulatory, you risk the cease and desist letters, you risk the recalls, and most certainly you're going to have a CAPA in your system that regulatory is going to have to do a lot of work on. But the way you prevent all this is you have a document control procedure that's not limited just to procedures. It's not limited just to work instructions and forms. It also includes website content, which includes marketing materials. And in a previous live streaming video, I talked about the instruction for use and review and approval of instruction for use. And that's a design specification. The website normally is not considered design, but the claims you're making on there, you want to make sure that those fall in line with the indications that are in your design controls and are covered as this is our indication for use specification that was agreed upon and approved by whoever the regulator is. So I think this addresses the basic topic of, how do you do this and when do you do this? How do you do this? Is it required? Does it have to be a regulatory person in my company? Can it be a consultant? Sure, you can have an outside consultant. Could you have somebody in your company do it? Yes, if they're trained on what to look for and what to look at. But you need to make sure somebody that has intimate knowledge of regulatory claims and indication for use and knows what the different terms are and how they apply. That's the person that should be reviewing that content. And if you don't have in your company like that, then have a consultant review it. It shouldn't take more than a couple hours to review your website content. They don't have to go into the back end of your website and edit things. They can look at screen captures or printouts of the pages and say, I see the following things that might be issues. I hope that helps people. If you have any other questions, please put them in the comments down below. And also, we're also going to be covering labeling, how to write instruction for use in a webinar at the end of the month, February 28th. That morning, we're going to cover a webinar on how to write your instruction for use. And we'll cover the concept of indication for use and how to write that and where it has to be in your IFU. We're going to cover a whole bunch of other things, including how to identify training that you need to give the people, warnings, precautions, symbols, different things like that. I hope that was helpful to everybody, and thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you next week. Next week, we're going to probably have it at a slightly different time, so look at the website. I'll have the time posted and updated there, as well as the topic. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.